Welcome to Anchored Not Anxious. This is where you gain a deep belief your life matters to God and discover the anchoring practices to manage anxiety and worry. I'm Terri Hutchinson, your host. In this episode, I will describe what performing for God looks like, how it generates anxiety, God's actual expectations, and why you don't need to perform. Now, if you are wondering, who performs for God? That was me, and occasionally I still do. The term performance anxiety is the fear or worry about being in front of a real or imagined audience. It stems from a belief that we might not measure up to expectations. It can occur in various situations: work presentations, interviews, teaching a group, or showcasing a talent in a competition. Even your job or role may feel like an ongoing performance because you are being evaluated on achieving goals or milestones. Further, we question ourselves. Do I meet the standards? Have I done enough? How can I improve further? For some of us, performance anxiety can manifest in our spiritual lives, especially if we are approval seekers, perfectionists, or self-shamers. Human evaluation and analysis traps us into believing God is also an evaluator. We become a performer for God. We believe He's critiquing every thought, decision, relationship, and conversation. And our mountain of wrongs and failures creates stress or anxiety. Here's what performing for God looks like. For years, I kept a mental running tally of my wrongs, like gossiping, angry conversations with my husband, forgetting to read the Bible, forgetting to pray for people, being disgruntled with someone, self-centeredness, and feeling bothered when asked to help others. As an approval seeker and perfectionist, I believed each sin was a failure in God's eyes. From early on, I learned that to disappoint someone can cause separation. I discovered a poor choice doesn't get forgotten or forgiven. I saw grace given, but not always to me. And I assumed this was God's way. I did not believe God could be anything other than what I knew and experienced. I developed this crazy idea that God set limits on forgiveness, mercy, and grace. Performing poorly meant my allotment of each could run out. Does all this sound like the thoughts of a child? For many, our perceptions are painted with the colors handed to us in our youth. We carry certain perceptions into adulthood because experience sustains the image. If this is anything like your perception of God, then let's change it. God does not want us performing for Him. It's not the type of relationship God seeks with you and me. A performance-based view of our relationship with God is flawed. Here's what God does expect from us. God expects you to see yourself as a work in progress. He sees your heart and mind seeking to do His will. but sometimes you don't. He gets it. God expects you to trade self-condemnation for confession. He expects you to cast off shame and grab His grace. He expects we will sin because we are sinners. If God thought we could be perfect and without sin, He wouldn't have sent His Son to save us from the eternal separation caused by sin. For this reason, we can quit performing. Quit performing and anxiety dissipates. If you have been performing for God, then here are your action steps. Do not create a mental image of God having emotions of disgust, disappointment, rejection, or anger. This creates performance anxiety. Remind yourself, there's no anger or finger pointing by God because you failed to be a good human. Focus on His unconditional love. No need for self-condemnation, no self-shaming. God has unlimited forgiveness, mercy, and grace for you. Give yourself a do-over. Seek forgiveness, attempt to do differently, and trust in God's love. His grace is sufficient. You can trust it. His grace relays His love, not anger. His grace streams acceptance, not dissatisfaction. His grace removes self-contempt. Grace gives you what you do not deserve. Our human counterparts find this hard to do, but not God. He is invested in the relationship. Always. Never forget it. Here is your takeaway. You and I can trust God will never give up on us, even when we falter. God values everyone. Believers in God and in His Son, Jesus, do not need to measure their self-worth or their performance. As John 3 tells us, God did not send His Son among us to condemn us, but to save us. If you know someone struggling with performance anxiety, share the podcast link. Everyone deserves to discover how much God truly cares for their unique and beautiful soul. Join me at my Facebook page, Terri L. Hutchinson, and subscribe to my newsletter, Anchored Not Anxious. I'd love to meet up with you there. Until next time.